I would not.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey.
Here.
Mr. Bateman.
Here.
Mr. Blair.
Here.
Mr. Hart.
Here.
Mr. Ori.
Here.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Here.
Mr. Ping.
Here.
Welcome, everyone. With us tonight, we have Mark Medler, our Director of Finance, City Manager Corey Wright, Clerk of Council Misty Clark, Dave Kennedy, City Manager, our City Solicitor Jeff Levine, our Fire Chief Ott Huber, and our Police Chief Michael Gabrielson. And also with us, our former council members Pat Mays and Todd Osborne. Welcome, everyone. Are we going to hear from you later, Bruce? We also have Executive Officer Bruce Hawk is here as well. All right, so welcome, everyone. Glad you're here. And first, Chad Schaefer. We'll start with you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And thank you. My son just came from swimming, so sorry.
He looks very happy to be here.
I was trying to sit outside, but I said, no, buddy, you got to come in.
No,
This is a civics lesson, right? So thank you, everybody, for having me this evening. And I'm Chad Schaefer. I serve as Government and Community Relations Manager for Duke Energy. And Mayor Bailey, members of the council, thank you very much. A lot of familiar faces, Dave, Corey, Chief Huber, Chief Gabrielson, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to work with each of you every day. And I'm here this evening actually to share some really great news that the Duke Energy Foundation has awarded a local impact grant in the amount of $7,500 in support of the City of Loveland's Hometown Heroes Grant Banner Program. So this program is designed to honor the brave men and women who are currently serving or have served in the United States Armed Forces, all branches of the military, by prominently displaying their photos across the city. This Duke Energy grant will help to cover the cost of the banners for our veterans and their families who may need financial assistance to be able to afford a banner. On July 4th, which is just around the corner, we're all celebrating the birth of our nation and honoring the brave men and women who serve in our armed forces and the fight to uphold the values of our country. I wanted to commend the city and the Veterans Memorial Committee for their hard work on creating this grant program to honor veterans in this way. I think it's a fitting tribute that we can remember and honor the sacrifices of our veterans and what the sacrifices they make to leave their families and to protect our freedom. Thank you again for having me here this evening, and I'd like to present this oversized check to the city and the Veterans Memorial Committee. So maybe we can snap a few photos.
Oh, we will. And
Okay.
we have Terry Stouter, who is our chairman, is here.
Perfect.
Also,
Terry?
David Scott. Is there anybody else here from the Veterans? Oh, very good. Can we do the Aaron Harper, right? Is that who? Yeah, right. Hi, Aaron. So, why don't we do this up here? What? You want to speak, Terry? Did you want to say anything? Okay, go ahead. Me? Well, I'll do a picture.
Okay.
Real quick, Mayor Bailey, I'd like to thank the Veterans Committee, John Arnold, Ben Parker, Dave Scott, Aaron Harper, Terry Wilson, Adam Jernick, and myself.
And we should do a round of applause for Duke Energy. Huh?
John.
I usually yep, that's right. I know, they will take this to the back.
if this is support or not.
Find out for sure.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it.
Green forever.
All right, next we have Dan Montgomery and Zach Herbst from Michael Schuster Associates. Or just one. How do you know?
So, scroll through your stuff. Just scroll. Okay.
Good evening. I'm Dan Montgomery with MSA Design. We have been working with the city and with the Loveland Sims Fire Department on a new fire station to replace Station 63. The property is at 220 East Loveland Avenue, so just down the street. Basically, what I'm here tonight to do is just sort of give an update on where the design is. And we have a rendering to show. So,
Wiggle the mouse.
what's that?
Wiggle the mouse back and forth.
Wait.
Get it to communicate.
It is not.
It's worse than the clock not being right.
That's right. Hit it.
There we go. So first of all, I'm going to start with the site. The site is extremely narrow. So trying to fit a fire station that has 3 apparatus bays on it and living quarters and a few offices is very challenging. So, but we are able to do that. This is the site plan. East Loveland is out here. Having some problems with the mouse and getting it to go where I want it to go. So I apologize for that. But this is East Loveland Avenue. O'Bannon is at the back of the site. There's an apartment building over here. Or I'm sorry, it's a senior living facility, I believe, isn't it? And a residence adjacent to it right here. So you can see it's a very tight fit. We're within a few feet of the property line on both sides, but we should be able to make this work. The apparatus bays are here. So we have 2 pull-through bays that are accessed from O'Bannon. We have a few parking spaces in the back, and there are going to be additional parking spaces for the fire department's use on O'Bannon as well. The main entrance to the building is from East Loveland. Like I said, there are 2 pull-through bays, and there's 1 back-in bay for ambulances here. So I'm going to go to the site plan. Or I'm sorry, the floor plan. Like I said, it was really tight. We have a lobby at the front. We have a tower here that you enter into to get into the building. This is the main entrance for the public. There's a historic pumper that the fire department has, and that will be on display in front of a large window in this lobby. So there'll be enough room for tours of children and whatever to come in, see the pumper, walk around it. There should be some room in this lobby for that sort of activity. We have some mechanical spaces, and then the living quarters are back in here. We have 6 bunk rooms, and then the day room and kitchen and dining area is here. So when looking at the exterior of the building and trying to figure out how to design that, we took some cues from the original City Hall, or might not have been the original City Hall, but the City Hall that was built back in the 1870s or 80s, if I remember correctly. We took a look at that, and we noticed that there are some nice Romanesque arches above entrances, main entrances. Also above some arched windows upstairs. There is a tower on the corner with some arched windows. Consistently, they have stone lintels above the windows, and windows are paired. It's all brick with a stone base. So we sort of took those elements, and this is the design of the station as you would view it from East Loveland. So Again, picking up on some of those cues, we are in a historic district. So we are trying to fit in with the historic district without mimicking or copying historic buildings. It needs to be of the time, and it is a fire station, so it also needs to be very functional. Like I said, we've got the 3 apparatus bays here. This is your main entrance. There's a tower above it to mark that entrance and to act as a civic monument within the community. This large window here displays the pumper behind the glass, so you will be able to see that from the street. Our materials on the for the exterior, we're using a dark red brick that's pretty typical with historic structures. We've got a might be kind of difficult to see on the screen here, but we do have an asphalt shingle roof that should mimic the look of a slate roof from a distance. It's very much more cost effective than doing slate or something that is historic looking. Our hardy board siding, we will have a little bit of that in the gables and in the tower. So that is a fiber cement board product. We're going to be going with two-tone gray for that. And for all of the trim, the window trim, it's going to be basically a matte black finish. And then this is our cast stone base. So it'll be a grayish sort of color there. Again, all of those materials are reflected here in this 3D rendering. Interior finishes, we're basically going to be matching the finishes that have been installed at the safety services facility. So these are all durable materials. It's a city build, or it's a city-owned building. It takes a lot of abuse, especially a fire station. So the materials used have to be something that's going to be durable. We're trying to design a building here that'll be in use by the community for about 50 years minimum. That's what we're aiming for. So the more durable the materials are, the better. That was my last slide. Did anybody have any questions on the design of the building or anything like that? Yes.
Mostly come out on East Loveland.
They will, yes, they'll come out on East Loveland. I don't know, would there be any instances where vehicles would come out the back onto Bannon, Chief?
Go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. No, I mean, there could be an instance where they would be back there for a training or something and have to leave that way, but the main exiting of the building is on East Loveland Avenue.
Right. Yes. Sure.
There's no longer sirens. I remember when sirens went off every time. But so what neighbors will hear is the engines coming out as they
right. I think the chief would need to respond to that one. Actually, I'm not sure what their policy is as they're actually pulling out of the station.
I'm sorry, ma'am. People can't hear you that are watching, and really questions need to come from us. Okay.
Okay.
No. We don't. We ask the questions. I'm sorry. You can't be asking questions. The questions are directed to us. But that's a fair question, Chief, and I think people would like to know the answer to that. Is because this is located in a residential area. What will your policy be as far as the sirens?
Right. Well, we'll have flashing lights, much like the flashing lights that you see were just installed on Carl Brown Way for the crosswalk. Those flashing lights will be there to stop the traffic. So we won't be having to turn our sirens on until we get down to the intersection of 48 and 2nd Street, in which we now have preemption devices in there. So it makes it much safer to come in and out since council added that there. So the residents shouldn't see much difference in any noise than what they're seeing now with the fire station that's a block down the street.
Okay, very good. Council members, do you have any questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Bateman.
I have a question sort of along the same lines as what we're discussing for Chief, but I do want to first make a comment of appreciation regarding the adherence to the historic district guidelines. I think you really nailed the intent of what's in the guidelines, is to pay homage to the historic district without copying it, without trying to create a facsimile of a different era. In particular, as you stated, due to the fact that it's a city safety services building. So, it doesn't, cute is nice, but it needs to be functional. So I really appreciate the design considerations. My question is just around more operationally, since it is a pull-through bay, which is distinct from the current downtown Station 63. Is it the intent for returning vehicles to exclusively turn on to 3rd Street to make that left onto O'Banion, or is there any instance where they may be making that somewhat difficult left onto O'Banion from 2nd Street? I'm just trying to understand a little bit more the logistics of that.
Yeah, most of 3rd Street is one of the widest residential streets we have in the city, especially in the historic district. And so they would be coming back on 3rd Street and then onto O'Banion Avenue.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Vice Mayor?
If I can ask the chief, aesthetics are great, and the existing fire station aesthetics weren't bad either, but it lacks some functionality. Can you comment on one or two things that this will improve on in terms of functionality?
Well, it'll keep us from having to replace mirrors every other month on the fire trucks because the doors aren't wide enough to get the modern fire trucks in and out. So that's the number one. The second thing is actually being able to get out onto the roadway. A lot of times we were stuck on the apron because cars were in queue there on East Loveland Avenue and we weren't able to get out onto the street. So it reduced or increased, I should say, our response times coming from that station. So this will help by reducing the response times, but allowing us to get into that lane of travel and get into that queue. It'll allow our preemption devices to work to flow the traffic through downtown Loveland so we can flow in behind that traffic and keep it moving as we get through there. So that's important. Bringing the station up to snuff for cancer prevention for firefighters, which is a big deal today. So, having that separation where the guys and gals are really not living their day inside that apparatus bay where the fumes are, and having an up-to-date exhaust removal system within the station to keep that exhaust removal out of there. That's a big safety feature for us. Also, you might remember a year ago, the Goshen Township Firehouse blew away in the tornado. The new requirements for these public buildings are that they have a space of last refuge. So the apparatus, or not the apparatus, but the living quarters there actually have a concrete roof on top of them. So is it the first 4 rooms, Dan?
It is these 2 bunk rooms and these 2 shower rooms. This box right here.
So the new code requires that so that they can go to that area there and be safe, kind of like tornado and hurricane, if you will, proof portions of the building are required for updating. So it'll allow that functionality, allowing us to be on one floor, reduces response times and makes it safer for the firefighters, because in this station here, we had to transverse those steps to get from the 2nd floor down. Sometimes that can be a little dangerous when the firefighters wake up at 2:00 in the morning and they're still half asleep and trying to get down the steps. Again, when we look at our data and our statistics, that station is that has one of the worst response times for the district when it comes to turnout time, because they have a longer way to get from the bunk room to the apparatus versus in any of our other 3 stations where the bunk rooms are right off the apparatus bay. In this one here, you'll see that the bunk rooms are right off. They have immediate access to the apparatus bay. So there are a lot of safety features with that, including the drive-through bays. Not having to back up the apparatus, again, is another big safety feature for us. So that's a big deal.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I'm really excited about it. I think it fits into that neighborhood very well and did a really nice job doing
Great.
that. So thank you for being
Thank
here
you.
presenting tonight.
Sure.
Appreciate it. All right, Andy Dickerson, Cardinal Land Conservancy. Mr. Montgomery, you're welcome to stay, but you don't have to. We understand.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me tonight. Understand I'm going to be on a TikTok later, right, David? So I'm here tonight to ask you for a resolution of support to pursue a Clean Ohio Conservation Fund grant to buy a large chunk of property from the Grail on the east side of Loveland. Because this is serious and fun, I wanted to give you a little more information about myself, about Cardinal, and about what we'd like to do out there. So I'll try to keep this brief and a lot of material in a hurry, but our mission is to work with communities and people to take care of green space, open space, and agricultural land. So you'll see that we do that all over Southwest Ohio. So we are an official 501c3. We are a nationally accredited land trust, and we're actually going for reaccreditation this year from the Land Trust Alliance, which is a national organization. What that means is we have the governance, we have the finances, we have the rules and regulations in order to operate forever. We are a forever organization. When we protect property, we mean that we protect it forever. 450 members, lots of volunteers, and we work all over Southwest Ohio, and we're looking at branching into Northern Kentucky and even Southeast Indiana. So what is a land trust? A lot of people ask me that. We own land, or we own an interest in land, and right now we're up to 700 acres that we own and about 8,300 acres that we have an easement on. And those easements preserve conservation and agricultural values. So family farms, natural space, endangered species. We have quite a variety of values in our portfolio. How we're funded, a lot of people ask that. We have members, so we have memberships. We have donors. We work with major gift folks and major donors, foundations, planned gifts. So in a wide variety of ways, we're funded by the public as a nonprofit. But as an organization, and I forgot to tell you a little bit about me, so I hope you guys don't look at me like some outsider and don't hold it against me, but I grew up in Milford. And I would ride my bike up Price Road and down this road to get on the bike trail to ride tomorrow on the bike trail way back when. But I worked for the Nature Conservancy for a number of years. I was a director of science in charge of science and stewardship of the state of Ohio. And I worked for conservation impact planning across North America, including Central America and the Caribbean. But there's no place as beautiful as home and right here. But one of those things in doing conservation impact planning was figuring out what to care about. What should we focus on to get the most for a dollar out of conservation? And we've got a short list of things, and it's wetlands. This is a wetland I was telling you guys about in East Fork. Native hibiscus blooming, 60-acre wetland next to East Fork Lake State Park. Habitat for threatened and endangered species. Ecologically sound agriculture. We don't just protect farms. We protect the farms where people are doing the right thing for water quality and for habitat. Local food. So we have one of the last family farms in the city of Cincinnati that we protect, and we don't grow the local food, we protect the land, but our tenant grows food for local folks, including hops. So there is a local Ohio hops plant that no one knows about or uses, and we're growing that to see what happens. Mature forests are another thing that we focus on, protecting those wooded lands that are climate resistant and climate resilient. Urban open space. We haven't done much urban open space yet, so I just grabbed a picture, but we are working with some of the vacant lots in downtown Cincinnati that could come to fruition to be urban open space. So I work on Green Umbrella's Green Space Impact Team. So we've come up with a plan of how to protect green space across the region. And it's a really neat way of working with a mapper, that a mapping tool that anyone can use on OKI's website, that we shove all these layers together that include streams that are degraded, where there's no canopy cover, where there's low income, high minority, and cancer clusters. That's where you see all the red. Those are areas that need to be restored. And on the outside, where you see all the green and dark green, those are those areas that have the best of all the mature forest, endangered species. Those are areas that need to be protected. So we've created a model for everyone to utilize to do conservation. Recent successes, we have new nature preserves. We have an eagle camera. I'll show you a couple photos. We have made progress on letting kids come to our bar farm. That's that farm in Cincinnati. We've had preserve openings, volunteer work days, tree plantings, restored prairie, added committee members, and we've done some fun stuff. I grew up on the Little Miami River. This shot is from the Little Miami River. We have 120 acre nature preserve right where the Little Miami River goes into the Ohio, and it's where we have Bonnie and Clyde. That's our eagles. So if you get a chance, I know Little Miami Inc. has some eagles not too far from here, but ours have 3 babies every year, so they're a little bit better. We're hoping to work with students to study eagle behavior this year, college kids, because there's so much we can learn. I received a call that said an adult eagle attacked one of the babies. This was 2 weeks ago. You got to go save it. You got to go do something. Well, no, we don't. And actually, the dad was pushing the kid out of the nest. It was time to fledge. And there's all 3 of them right before they flew this year. So, it's a wonderful viewer experience and educational experience for folks. Our bar farm in the city is pretty neat. This is Spring Grove Cemetery down here. So we are pretty close to that, and it's just a big mecca. We have an active farm here where we've restored native grass for grazing, and we have a nature preserve that's right next door to it. So we're hoping to engage the public in enjoying the outdoors. And you can see downtown from this place all the way down the Mill Creek Valley. It's beautiful. There's Mr. Barr that we worked with his gals. We restored a pond, and I think that's important because we'd like to do that again. But it's neat to fix a dam, put habitat structure back in, and put in fish so people can enjoy a recreational opportunity. You see, restoring native prairie is hard for someone that hasn't done it, but we've done a lot of it. And you really just need to put seed in the ground, get some water. When it touches soil, and magic happens. And that's what we've seen happen out there. Next to my foot, it's hard to see, but close up, you can see little seeds inside grooves. You can't plant this stuff deep. And there's what it looks like now, first year planting. We've got lots of native warm season grasses and wildflowers, and all stuff that cows can eat. I did not like the truck on fire, but we do work with corporate partners, and we work with the Bosom Auto Group, and this is a prairie burn that we did up near Wilmington, and we have our vehicles and we work them. We take folks on hikes and learn about forests. We participate in corporate lunches, and that was at P&G. We have a 220-acre nature preserve up in Wilmington with endangered Indiana bats on it. And, we tried to get back to some of the native plantings that include wild plum thickets. We know the science out there points to bats having higher success at catching food when there's white flowering plants nearby. So we're looking to help that. But again, the volunteer work days, technology, we've got a drone program, pretty high quality. So we monitor what we do and where we do it and how we remove invasives. This is one of the farms that we monitor. We've cut our monitoring time by 75% by having a drone program. Farmers love it. This is a drone selfie. The year ahead. So this really is what we're here to talk to you about. So what we'd really like to do is work with you all, work with partners, work with the Grail, and restore and protect this property. So I've been part of restoration projects of forests, of prairie, of meadows, and we'd love to do that out here. We'd like to build a 2-mile trail, maybe more. Primitive trail for now, but we'll work on more later. Restore the pond. I think the pond has an issue. There's 2 ponds, but one's pretty good. With a little help, we can bring that thing back. And work with the public to restore and utilize the buildings. I know those buildings may not look so great, but I think there's good bones in there, and it's something I think is very fundable, and donors would like that we can fix them up and make that our center of operations, and then have the community use it. And we'd also work with health practitioners. One of the big kicks that's gaining popularity is working with health practitioners to prescribe nature as a remedy. There are lots of ailments, anxiety, diabetes, stress, tension that can be treated with nature. And I am talking to a couple different hospital groups right now to work with us and work out of ODA to have people come in and then get outside and enjoy the place. So the Ohio Revised Code, in applying for the grant, states that a nonprofit needs to obtain a formal resolution of support from the local government entities. And that's what we're here to do. I'm asking you for that. So if you guys could entertain giving us that support, I'm not looking for money, not looking for funding. Just I need a letter of support that says we can apply for the grant. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Dickerson. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Vice Mayor?
The grant that you're seeking, would it cover the entirety of the purchase price of the acreage you're looking at?
Yes.
Okay. And then down the road, you'd own the property. I assume there would be restrictions on it being sold or on the perpetuity of the conservancy aspects of the property?
The state of Ohio will hold deed restrictions in accordance with us on the property.
Okay. And then are you at all related to the Cincinnati nature? Center there in outside of Batavia, I think it is.
The Dickersons over there?
Yeah. Okay. Is that part of the nature?
My dad's the upper middle of 9 kids, and that's cousin Lenny out in Batavia.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you said the Dickersons out there.
No, sorry.
So Jeff Corney's on our board. He's their executive director. So we're strategic partners with the Nature Center.
Okay, but it's a separate 501c3.
We're separate. They do programming and education. We protect land.
Okay. And then my final question is, reading your bio, I understand that you are a prescribed fire burn boss. What is that?
So there's a lot of habitat types around here that evolve with fire. So the biggest threat to oak forests in Ohio, and Ohio is famous for oak forests. After death and divorce, it's red maple. And it's because we've taken fire out of the system. So the biggest benefit to forests in Ohio is fire. We also had Native Americans introduce, they kept places open because it increased hunting, increased diversity, and increased their health. So they maintained open areas and with fire. And so when I was involved with the Nature Conservancy, I was curious about that. So I received every bit of training it took to become a nationally certified burn boss. So we light fires for good.
Okay, thank you for explaining that.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
I have a comment. I think this is an amazing opportunity for the city and for the residents of the city. Yeah, let's go. Thank you.
Mr. Ping?
Just a question on the, obviously this is right next to the Claremont County parkland. Is there, what are your thoughts as far as like working with them and is there a use of the entire space that can be done, or does it have to stay as 2 separate entities?
So I'll say we're friends and partners with Claremont County Park District too. I've known Chris a long time, and I'm getting familiar with Josh. We've spoken out there and actually have applied for a grant together from the Appalachian Fund to do some of the restoration of the buildings and parking and a visitor center. And right now things look really good for that, but we need to get the property. But yeah, we'll help them where they would have to pay a contractor to restore it. We'll help them with that because they want to do a lot of the same things.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Story.
I believe this is a win-win for the city. It's better than having 100 or 200 homes up there, which was the last proposal. Question I have is the remodeling or construction, rehabbing of the existing buildings. Is that going to be funded from the grant, or is that
No, not at all.
Okay.
That's a green space grant, and they don't like buildings. And typically, as a land trust, I don't like buildings either because we're in the forever business, and buildings are not forever. So we're trying to work out a way where we can exclude some of the houses from the grant and purchase those with other funds, so we're not restricted or with how we restore or renovate them. But buildings can be purchased with it and can be torn down, but it's a very tiny percentage of the money that can be used for that.
But you're funded and able to do the rehab?
The funding that we're pursuing is to buy the land.
You know, I understand that, but if the land goes through and you get the entire site, 109 acres, that includes those buildings, I'm asking, are you funded to be able to do those remodeling?
No, we need to raise that
You'll have
funding.
to raise that. Okay.
First things first.
Right.
Let's get the land first.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, I appreciate you being here tonight. I agree. I can't imagine a better opportunity and a better way to use this land. It's the perfect solution, I think, to this. I don't know if any of us even dreamed that this is what we could get, but it's certainly, now that this is in front of us, really thankful that you're here, and we hope that this all works out the way you have planned.
Great.
Thank you. You don't have to stay, but you may. We do have a vote coming up, I suppose. You should stay for that. Open forum is next. Mr. Miller.
David Miller, 251 Wall Street here in Loveland. I wanted to be here for at least a month, I guess, but to thank Corey and to thank Dave Kennedy for the visit they took with me onto the Simpson farm. And I haven't been able to get here yet, but I really appreciated both of you coming and hearing me out. And I think we came to some agreement on quite a bit of my concerns about what the future should be at the Simpson farm. But I just wanted to kind of cement that in, that we had that meeting and it went well from my point, that you guys went up there and talked to me, and then we could both talk and listen to each other. And so thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right, next is review and approval of minutes from the June 13th meeting. Are there any changes, additions to those minutes?
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, next is a public hearing on the 2024 tax budget. We will need a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll move to open for public hearing the 2024.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman? Motion carries 7-0.
And no one signed up to speak, so we have a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Carries 7-0.
All right, we'll wait till 12C in the agenda to talk about it, Mr. Medler. All right, next we have a second reading of an ordinance. Can you go ahead and read the ordinance, please?
Ordinance assessing street widening costs associated with the Highland Street residence located in Hamilton County, Ohio.
Does anybody have any comment on this resolution? I'm sorry, on this ordinance? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ordinance 69 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Kennedy?
So I don't really have to add. I just prior to the resolution, which we didn't have to change a whole lot from what Mr. Dickerson sent to the city. I just wanted to touch on couple items very briefly. Again, he emphasized the fact that there's no financial commitment at all with the city. I do want to say that in my former position, we bought some property after a flood, and it had similar restrictions. And I think that if there's ever any concerns, and we discussed this with the Claremont County Park District when we went for the annexation, if there's ever any concern, if you read those deeds, they are truly in perpetuity. Mine was a different source of funding, but it was the same general use, and it is about as ironclad as anyone would ever see. I also think he talked lightly on the potential relationship between the Park District and the Conservancy, but I think that's really a potential for the city. I just ran some couple numbers. Working with our city engineer. Currently, we have about 325 acres of dedicated green space. That's land that's either been dedicated through Claremont County, through Simpson Farm, through potentially this property, and land that has been deeded to the city as relation to, for example, behind Brandywine and so on and so forth. And if you take that and add on the additional 110 acres that make up the city's park district, that's comes out to, believe it or not, 1,386 square feet of green space / park space per city resident. Just sort of Googled that and saw what was the average recommended for that in the United States. The Natural Systems and Ecology green spaces actually recommend 121 square feet per. The resolution, just a couple basic items that in this resolution, the city is acknowledging that the land will create a permanent nature preserve. City acknowledges the preservation of the property as open space is compatible with the long-range goals. It is listed in the city's comprehensive plan under one of the strategies, and also city recognizes the commitment of the Grail as their role in this particular process. Outside of that, I don't have anything else that Mr. Dickerson obviously touched on.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Kennedy or any further comment? All right, we'll read the resolution.
Resolution supporting the efforts of the Cardinal Land Conservancy to secure funding through the 2023 Clean Ohio Conservation Fund to purchase 89 acres of land from the Grail.
Any comment on the resolution? Call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Resolution 70 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Hope you get it. If there's anything else we can do, Mr. Dickerson, let us know. But we're obviously all in on this. Would love to see this happen. So just let us know if you need anything else from the city. All right. We're counting on it. Thank you for being here. All right, Mr. Medler.
Thank you, Mayor. Each year, the city, as well as other governmental entities throughout Ohio, is required to prepare a tax budget for the following calendar year and hold a public hearing. The budget must then be submitted to Hamilton County Auditor prior to July 20th in order to receive the city's share of local government fund revenues. The format of the tax budget before you is standard and reflects 2 years of actual financial data, an estimate for the current year of 2023, and a general projection for 2024. The tax budget does not contain the amount of detail that goes into the operating budget and CIP and only includes information for funds that receive property taxes. That includes the general fund and the fire levy funds. So, to secure the city's share of local government funding, it is recommended that the City Council adopt the 2024 tax budget.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Medler? Any comment? All right, read the resolution. Yes.
I want to thank Mr. Medler Mr. Kennedy and all the staff for their diligence in preparing the budget.
Anyone else? Read the resolution, please.
Resolution adopting the 2024 tax budget.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Mr. Kennedy.
So this is sort of a twofold, but part of this is, let me say that if not for the funding source for the Harrison Avenue widening, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But it's actually a good thing because thanks to Cindy Kloppenstein's due diligence, we were able to fund what I think is going to be one of the most exciting projects in the downtown district in a long time. It's going to be one of those where people are going to go, oh, now I get it. I really do think, because it's also the foundation for other projects. The Harrison Avenue widening project is the foundation for finishing Nisbet Park because the storm pipes will finally be complete. It is the foundation for a sidewalk that will run along Railroad, creating an intersection at Harrison and Railroad to have all traffic go in there. It'll be the foundation for a new road that goes right up to the new parking lot. It will add. It would be the foundation for an expansion of the existing city parking lot. It is also has many elements for safety. There is a blind turn, the sight line that turns onto Railroad. I'm sorry, that turns onto Harrison from Railroad, northbound traffic going westbound. There's a sight line issue. This will be corrected as it fixes that alignment. It's one of the reasons Cindy was able to get this project funded. I don't. So if you recall, back in 2019, the city purchased the McCoy property. It is the one we've been using temporary parking. We removed that structure, and that has been a temporary parking place. That will be the future road, the mid-block. But if you look at the map, Harrison actually does exist on paper over into the City Hall parking lot. So this will straighten out the road and create a full intersection with direct access into the parking lot. At the second meeting in July, we'll be presenting the preliminary drawings of the new parking lot, and I think that people are really going to be happy with it. It is everything that I think we said. I'm not trying to change, but again, Harrison is also now going to be a more desirable place to come into downtown because the turning radii coming in from Carl Brown onto Harrison is not going to be this. It's going to be a full radius turn. So with that said, Ohio Public Works Commission will not fund public improvements except in a dedicated right-of-way. Well, it's a city lot, yeah, but it's not a dedicated right-of-way, and it must be dedicated as a dedicated right-of-way. We own the land, so that's what it is. In many ways, it's just housekeeping, and I probably made it more complicated because I wanted to use the memo as a chance to explain to people about this really cool project that's getting ready to start in July. So that's really it. It just creates it. I had 2 typos. I corrected the typo, and still, thanks to Kip, have a typo. The fourth whereas should say parcel 200,602.011.
1-6?
You won 6.
2000602.
Yes. I'm sorry, Joe. I'm taking the heat.
So that is not on the original red line version. Do we need a motion to amend the ordinance? No? All right. Scrivener's error. Thank you, Mr. Braun. Mr. Levine, I should have asked you.
I could have told you that, Mayor.
I know. I'm just looking at him, and he's making faces. I won't look at him the rest of the night. All right. Any questions for Mr. Kennedy on this memo? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Mr. Kennedy, is the entire area dedicated now? So the entire plot of land is a right of way?
No, right now it's just a city-owned lot. The entire boundaries will be dedicated. That'll allow the storm pipes, the sidewalks, everything to be in a public right-of-way. Because it's more than just the road. It's all the accessory infrastructure that will be a part of it. Rather than go for a full survey and expend extra money, the entire lot will just be dedicated as a right-of-way. And then Harrison will largely be abandoned, the center block. So it will be creating a contiguous right-of-way up into the parking, up into First Street.
Yes, Mr. Blair.
Just an observation. It's been said by historians that Israel Ludlow and Company were seriously inebriated when they first laid out the plots for the city of Cincinnati. I would ask if someone with a historical background can tell me why Harrison comes off Carl Brown Way and runs down across to Railroad, and then hopscotches south for about, looks like 60 feet, and runs over to where the alley is, and then hops over the works and runs off of 2nd Street somewhat east. Does anybody know that? I'm looking at the map. It looks like Israel Ludlow and Company laid it out. Just an observation. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your observation. Anyone else?
Trying to be helpful.
That was very helpful, Ken.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and read the ordinance?
Ordinance dedicating city-owned property located on Railroad Avenue as public right-of-way for the widening, expansion, and relocation of Harrison Avenue.
All right. Thank you. That was a first reading only. Mr. Kennedy?
So a big part of what I know Corey and I do is the myriad of various regulations, especially those that impact land use, is something that the city has to stay up on top of, and we constantly review these different regulations and so on and so forth. So if you recall, in 2018, the city adopted historic preservation regulations. That was done in advance of the design guidelines and the boundaries. So at the time, the city, per the default, used the Secretary of Interior's regulations for review of any certificate of appropriateness that would come their way. That was in 18. Fast forward, then the city ends up adopting, in 2021, the city created boundaries, where the new fire station is with it, for example, and then created a whole certificate of appropriateness process. And they're very active. We have a meeting tomorrow. They're extremely active. So the mothership per se is the regulations. All goes back to the regulations. The design guidelines are a subsidiary of that. The regulations are the enforcement mechanism of the design guidelines. If you would challenge that, we felt that it was important that the historic preservation regulations that simply say that this body will review COAs via design, being the Secretary of Interior, should include the city's historic guidelines. It sounds minor, but it could be an issue in the future. It's just a small housekeeping item that we felt was necessary to bring forth to the committee. They are going to be making some tweaks to their design guidelines. Every COA that they go through, applications for certificate of appropriateness, they discuss afterwards about any process changes, and Corey's implemented it. Becky Noel is very good at catching them. We've missed a few. We're doing some, but they're going to make some changes. So that's all I had. It's a very minor change.
All right. Anybody have any comments or questions?
So, if I might,
Vice Mayor?
the COA process will necessarily involve and refer to not only the Secretary's standards, but
their own design guidelines.
The own design guidelines of the historic.
Yes.
Okay.
And I apologize that I put 2 question marks and then sent a memo to the Ohio Historic Preservation Office on how many CLGs there are. And then never went back and corrected them. There's 79. So the city is one of 79 CLG communities. The CLG communities means that we've met a certain level of historic preservation review, but the CLG also means that only CLG communities are eligible for CLG grants. That's how the city got funding to hire a consultant to write the design guidelines. So sorry about the question marks. It's 79.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Go ahead and read the ordinance, please.
Ordinance amending the City of Loveland's historic preservation regulations.
All right, thank you. There are various committee minutes. Anybody have any comments on those? All right, next is a request from our Vice Mayor to have permission to attend the June 28th, 2023 Law and Ordinance Committee meeting in a form other than in person. Can we have a motion to allow that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Before we go into executive session, just remind everybody that it is 4th of July coming up, and there are all kinds of things on the calendar for that day, and you can find that on all of our social media, and I'm sure it's on our website as well. But 7 o'clock is the parade, but all day long it looks like there's all kinds of new things. Is there anything you want to talk about?
Our Kids Zone starts at 4 o'clock in Nesbitt Park from 4 to 6:30. Parade is at 7. We have the band Pandora Effect playing in Nesbitt Park starting at 8 o'clock till 10, and then fireworks at 10 o'clock.
What? Oh, that's right, fireworks. But then there's also a pie eating contest.
Yeah, that's something new we're throwing out there. That's I think at 8:30 in Nesbitt Park.
Some parade of dogs.
Yes.
I'm like dragging it out of her.
Sell it, Missy.
Yes. The Patriotic Puppy Parade, I believe is what it's called. And that's also new this year, so we're encouraging people to bring their animals out. Meet at 4 o'clock at the clock. Have your animals decorated and celebrating the holiday, and then they'll parade down to Nesbitt Park.
And is there not also something in City Hall that is happening?
Also new this year, the Ben Morrison Foundation will be doing bingo inside City Hall.
To raise money for the
Raise
foundation.
money for the foundation, yes.
So there you go. Bunch of new things. So come on out. All right. Does anybody else have any other announcements? Mr. Levine, you have anything you'd like to add?
Nothing further, Mayor.
Okay.
Happy to be here as always.
We're glad to have you. Thank you. All right. Can we have an executive session motion, please?
I move that we go into executive session under Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 G2 to consider the purchase of property.
For a second.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
A motion to adjourn?
Move. Second.
Call the roll, please.
Blair.
Yep.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
Mr. Ori.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Yes.
Mr. Ping.
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Bateman.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.